about, how you say you didn't have any symptoms at all and how it's a silent killer. And that's why we're here trying to wake up folks. That's exactly why we're here trying to talk to folks. What was it? Was it your primary care physician that said, hey, something's not right? Oh, the, the biggest takeaway though is getting that test. The biggest takeaway is that you had no clue that anything was going on. Is that just a standard test? Tamika, I want you to chime in on that. Is that just a standard test that PCPs add to the regimen after man gets to be a certain age?
Generally speaking, it should be, but most PCPs, unfortunately, are not on the bandwagon.
Oh, wow.
So you do have to request it from some.
So Eddie, that was great. Your doctor did that automatically, right?
Yes,
Say that again.
that's right. That's right.
You say that's right.
Tamika, I have a question for you. Why do you think that is that we are not getting the aggressive care from our PCPs? I mean, you work in the system, so I want to hear from you.
The disparities of African American care it's known nationwide. We see it everywhere. Unfortunately, with African American men, they're not always taken serious. We see with African Americans in general, it's easier for them to get appeal for an ailment than to tell them, hey, you can do some lifestyle changes, because they feel like, oh, they're ignorant. They're gonna be happy with just appeal. You don't have to talk to them about diet changes or lifestyle changes. Just give them appeal. They're happy with that. Insurance, co-pays are extremely high. And like the young man just said, it's a lot coming out of a one income household to say, hey, I need to pay for this, or I need this, I need to buy that. You have a lot of families, even now in 2024, deciding on whether or not they want to pay for medications or groceries.
Well, you said something that I want to chime in on. You both did. The actual cost. I think it's minimal, but that's just somebody who can afford the $15 or $30. But isn't the system, or shouldn't it be set up in a way to where if you need some type of medical care, it is beheaved to you, and then we worry about who pays for it later?
That's what
Isn't that the great
like to
country
do.
that we live in? Like, let's get you well first, and then bill you later for the test?
That's not always the case. There are a lot of facilities that request monies, your co-pays at the beginning of the visit, or you won't be seen, unfortunately.
And it is a primary care physician's decision to make whether or not you get that test, unless what you say, CC, you walk in, or Brother Wright, you walk in and just ask for it. Is that the
Typically,
case?
after 45, African American men should be tested. It should be standard after 50, but because it's so prevalent in the African American community, especially African American men, of course, they should be tested sooner.
Well, you mentioned something about the concept that we, as African American men, would rather take a pill than to change our diet. And I had some questions that came in about that. It spoke to prevention, causes of prostate cancer. Is it food related? I had a lot of questions coming about that, and you kind of opened that segue. So when you say we are used to getting a pill to fix things, I understand that. When you approach a prospective man that's having some challenges, are we really that hard to turn around in terms of diet? Or do we have to be told we're sick and then we get a better reaction about turning it around?
Unfortunately, in the African American community, I hear this also often. I gotta die of something.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna get their attention until something happens with the growing. He's not going to the doctor until that part happens. Then you got my undivided attention.
Huge point. But in Eddie's case, he wasn't having an issue with
Right.
that. And again, he had to sort of position it as part of his regimen would offer this test. I'm confused to why it's just not across the board, why this isn't something that we all just don't get just because. Eddie?
He's not going to the headphones. He keeps clicking on the station. Go all the way right to the headphones, click on the headphone, and it won't get him there. Said it didn't work. Keep on.
Right. That's right.
Amen.
From it. That's right.
Okay, let's talk about food and prevention and things like that. You had mentioned, Tamika, a few minutes ago about how we just don't want to take a pill to fix things.
How we'd rather take a pill to fix
Yeah,
it.
how we'd rather take a pill. Well, I got questions in here about prevention and treatment. How does prevention play in? How does food play into what we eat? We're talking about something that's inside our body that is now foreign to us, that is not happy with whatever we did to it, so now it's cancerous. How did that happen? Are there things that we have done? What's the high risk group? I mean, we had mentioned it, you know, age groups, like you said, when we need to start getting tested. But what can we do pre-getting? What can we do to not get it? What can we do from a health perspective to minimize our chances?
There are not a lot of studies out there as far as prevention, and we don't always know why
Yeah.
this happens. But there are some studies that say that dairy in particular can help. Avoiding dairy can help with not getting or slowing it down or even reversing it. There have been some studies also out there to say that maybe reducing the amount of meat you intake can help. There are some studies, they're not all, documented studies that, you know, the cancer societies will actually acknowledge. And of course, with that being said, there's always money to be made. But I tell all the men that I've ever come in contact with, do your research.
Holistically,
Mm-hmm.
let's get away from, you know, let's get way away from the medicine and get way into prevention. Holistically, what is it you can put in your body? Everybody's running out doing sea moss. Everybody's doing things. You know, I'm a sea moss fan. I've been a sea moss fan long before folks were getting sick. But I did it for the reasons that made sense to me in black and white, the minerals that it adds to your body and such. So if you're in a high risk group, what would you do as a man to kind of minimize your risk?
So now, I'm gonna piggyback on that
Okay.
because I learned something through that process. Because I was running to the health food store and I was buying all these things to help put my performance in the bedroom. Well, as I obtained cancer, I had to take this drug, which is a testosterone lowering drug. So as my wheels are turning, if you're lowering my testosterone, then my doctor stated that it was testosterone was feeding the cancer. So if I didn't know I had cancer and I was running to the food store buying these supplements, then actually I was giving it fertilizer.
Well, I get that part, but I don't want to miss the part about what is out there from a health perspective that can prevent it.
Well, that's what we're doing research for now. You really don't know what's causing it and what's causing, specifically in the black community, why our prostate is swelling to such quick magnitude. I've got one guy that his wasn't showing at all, and the next thing you know, it was up to 18. So we really don't know exactly where it's coming from. As I do my research, I find that coffee was an irritation to the prostate. And at the plant, I had a coffee pot. That was one of my hustles. coffee all day. And of course I got to try it, make sure it's good. So the coffee was irritating and different things were irritating it that I was still doing. So those kind of preventions of doing your research. Once you find that you got a swollen prostate, which doesn't mean that it's cancerous, the prostate swells enough to cut your urethra off where you're not discharging all your waste, and now you got bacteria, urinary tract infections, and now you're causing other problems. So it's essential that you get it checked anyway, because regardless, it's going to cause problems. And men is not going to go unless you start messing with their chicken. I'm just going to be frank with it. So with that being said, there's really no preventions that you can do except for exercise, keep yourself in a good weight program. Sugar, oh, I can't fathom how much sugar it's fertilizer. So we love sugar. Fruity Pebbles, Honey Nut Cheerios, and the like. So those are the things that we need to stay away from to help prevent.
Tamika, I want you to chime in about support and counseling, and then I want to go to Eddie too about support and counseling. I'm sure when we walk out the doctor's office with that first initial diagnosis, we need to talk to somebody. So Tamika, from your end, do you touch men with that or give them direction about where to go?
Yes.
Okay, talk to
We
us.
have the American Cancer Society that we actually point them into. We do have at Michigan Institute of Urology, we have the Men's Foundation, the Prostate Foundation. But outside of that, for a lot of the men, I would give them my phone number or Dr. Schock's phone number, because there's always a question. When you're first diagnosed with cancer, you have somebody telling you you have cancer. You don't hear anything after cancer. So all the treatment options, everything that's being presented to you at that moment, you don't hear it. You don't understand it. Nothing's going in. So we tell the men, go home, talk to your significant other, your family, come back with all your questions. Then we'll go over those things with you. But they're always gonna need a sounding board, and they're gonna need somebody to just hear them.
Well, to piggyback off of that, she definitely gave me her telephone number. She says, if you need me, don't hesitate to text me or call me. Dr. Schock did the same thing. These guys put together a team that's just remarkable. To me, it was angels that saved my life. And the support groups, she really didn't attack that with me at that time. But when I went home to talk over with my wife, which I got a two-her horn, I ran into fighting men fighting cancer. And from there, because I was running away from that support group. And the support group, I'm like, what can they do for me? They can't help me. I got cancer. What they gonna talk about? So instead of fighting, I did submit. And by me submitting, I ran into another support group, which is Zero. That's why I run into Bishop Eddie Wright. And such a great brother. I took to him right off the back from standing in the corner. He was holding a conversation. I said, that's a brother there that's talking some real stuff.
All right.
And that's exactly what, he was doing. So with that support group, oh yes, you did all right. I thank you, Dr. Schock. I'm glad you joined us. We were worried about
Doctor, I'm so glad you could join us.
Yes, indeed. This is one of my heroes.
That's okay. I'm glad you got in. So glad you got in. Please feel free to chime in on anything you've heard. We've waited to hear from you too. Go right ahead. Introduce yourself to our listeners and go right ahead and tell us what we need to know. You know, what's amazing is that when I hear you and Tamika talk about how you gave your numbers out, how you knew that a patient would go home and probably be up all night the first couple of days, just tossing and turning and thinking the worst thoughts, because that's kind of what we do, right? But it's amazing that you did that. And I sit here now, I can't think of a physician that's done that with me. I did have a hip replacement surgery, and that surgeon called me the night before, and I'm talking about the best bedside manner I ever had, because he knew everything I was going through the night before, the anxiety and such, and he really calmed my nerves, put me at ease. So when you guys just mentioned that, when Tamika just mentioned that, I got that feeling all over again. It took me back to that moment of, you know, you think you're the only one sometimes in the world dealing with some of these issues at the moment, and how that phone call. So I'm amazed and so pleased that you wonderful folks do that. And if this is just something that you do as standard practice. It is. And when you say completely curable, of course, the caveat is early detection. Yes. Yeah, Tamika did chime in on that, and it's so important that we get tested. And also, we talked about how some physicians, PCPs, make it a part of their regimen to run that PSA, and some don't. And the reasons behind it. Yeah. What?
Stop.
or any of that other stuff. Okay. Absolutely. I think we as patients, and as I listen in, and I hope our listeners take away, that we have to be a little more aggressive in our own treatment. Because, like you said, there's a minimal amount of cost, but the payback is phenomenal on the other end if you can head this thing off. And it's the opposite is true if you don't head it off. And I'm just surprised when I sit and listen that it's not a standard thing that a primary care physician would do. And like you said, they do it for their own dads and brothers or whatever, because you understand as a physician how important it is. And like you said, they do it for their own dads and brothers or whatever, because you understand as a physician how important it is. And like you said, they do it for their own dads and brothers or whatever, because you understand as a physician how important it is. But does it
back on what Dr. Shock said, and it's a true statement. I'm a living witness of a history of prostate cancer in my family. My brother passed from prostate cancer, and we're burying another one of my brothers from prostate cancer here Saturday. I've had my son get checked, and I'm sending the messages out to their sons because, of course, they're still afraid. So I'm glad Dr. Shock got on. So I'm hoping that one of the two of them listening tonight, understanding how important, and I wasn't just blowing smoke up their behinds with that. And that it is definitely important that they go get checked.
Yes, we might listen to someone else before we listen to our dads.
That's right.
Or our brothers or something. And it's a shame that it's that way, but that's so true. And again, I hope they're listening as well. Do you get a lot of pushback, doctor, when you recommend? I know you're on the other end. You've already gotten a patient referred to you, but do you get a lot of pushback when you tell people, just as a doctor, hey guys, get yourself checked, get your PSA checked, get your rectum exam. Do you get a lot of pushback from men in general? And we hear that all our lives. I get it. Tamika, is that right?
Tell the truth.
She's over here dying too, Doc. I'm just
Oh,
telling
Doc, let me tell
She
you,
is
she
a
would
kid.
come in that room and have that needle behind her back, and I'm like, what do you got behind your back? She said, oh, it's nothing. And the next thing you know, I got this needle going in me. I'm like, oh my God. Such a pleasant lady.
Got it.
Ulysses.
Oh, that would be awful.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, oh, I get it. I understand. So yeah, no, but that's it. No, but it's important that we all hear that. I'm sure a listener needs to hear exactly what you're saying. That bedside manner is important. You don't want to freak somebody out. And then too, that part about don't disappear on us. You know, like when we change doctors,
Yeah.
quote unquote, it's kind of disappearing. The next doctor might not pick up the ball where you dropped it off at. And as a man, I might not just walk in there and say, I need a rectum exam.
Right. And that this is the team that I had. So that's why I was so glad that they could come and join us today, because you have to kind of develop a team. You might not find a nurse like Tamika out there, but if you are educated once they tell you that you have these kind of things, then you can kind of develop a team on who cares and who don't.
Yeah, surround yourself with people. A regular Florence Nightingale? Is that right? You wasn't in the healthcare, that wasn't your thing?
She cares. And when you got a nurse that cares, then she just used all her education that she needed to help me. Because I was calling her. Trust me, if I couldn't get hold of Dr. Schott, I was getting hold of one of them.
That's got to be huge. I mean, that's important.
Right.
Because we kind of find ourselves. Yes. Yes. Go right ahead, Eddie.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah.
That's right, that's right.
Well, I beg a difference. Go ahead.
Oh man, you crazy. I tell you what.
Yes, indeed. And now I go out with a squishy butt.
That's crazy.
And everybody in the office sees exactly what's going on. I was like, hey, y'all have a good day too.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I had that happen in my area. A good friend of mine's physician died of prostate cancer, and he started the conversation with all of us. We all started to talk about it, and this man has since passed on himself for different reasons. COVID got him. But he started the conversation in our subset community about, hey man, this was my doctor. He was a great man, and he made a mistake and not get himself checked out. And he started to preach to all of us. We all, within a 5 or 6 month period, went and had colonoscopies. We were talking to each other. Hey man, you get all clear? Did you get to this? Did you get to that? Right down the list, we were talking to each other about what we should do, because this man was so fond of this doctor, and the doctor did not have that test and check himself out until it was way too late.
Well, Dr. Shock is going to take care of himself. I could see that. He went through a terrible accident, and when he showed me, he showed sure that God has his hand upon him, because he's still practicing, he's still good, he's still my guy. So,
Doc, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I got a question for you, Doc. And some of these questions came in online, and you touched base on it earlier, you and Eddie. Treatment options. It's a full range of options, right? The first thing we hear when someone mentions prostate cancer is we think about surgery and removal of the prostate and erectile dysfunction. And that's about all we hear. We're so limited in our knowledge in the community sometimes, and that can be to our detriment. So chime in again, Doc, about the different types of treatment. One might not need this, one might need that. Go through that if you could for the listeners, please.
So let me piggyback on this with a joke. I need to piggyback on this one because what you gave me that scenario, and my son came up with the thing, why trap a rat in your body? What you gave me that scenario, and my son came up with the thing, why trap a rat in your body?